up there. And welcome guys to another Blaze casting presentation, part of DotaBros.com. I'm their official broadcaster for these games here, so this is pretty cool. We did see Outpicked in the last game. They didn't play as strong as they could have. They actually got stomped pretty hard, 11-minute game, but I do believe they have it in them to pull it in together. Again, like yesterday, they played some really good games, so I believe they definitely can come back together, and they have pretty good rating. So yeah, even though they didn't play their best in the last game, I think they can change it up a little bit, come into it with a different mentality, and Magnus Big doesn't hurt. So starting that off, they are going to give away the Templar Assassin, but they have the Magnus. Maybe even want to try trick up the enemy sleeve. Last game, their Viper, they lost to a Viper as Templar Assassin really hard, and they might even want to try that themselves. That isn't too big of a deal. Getting that poison attack up, really helping in that regard. But Wisp, interesting pick that opens up so many doors for Dire's lineup here. So Dubas the Slayer, some of you guys might know him. Along with that, Versuto, Vampire TV, all these guys are pretty cool. So I don't know any of them personally, and I only know a limited amount of as far as the streamers go, but you know, they're cool. They're cool guys, and hopefully you guys can enjoy watching them play specifically. So let's see here. PoLy4ikaPoebLy. I don't know what that means. If I knew their team name, that would help, but oh well. That is how it's going to go, because we do have, Dubas and Versuto both on this team captaining it up and having a couple friends along with it. Resolution might be an individual of note, but I honestly do not know. So I'm just going to go along with it and go from there. So we have Leshrac and Lifestealer picked up for Team Outpicked, and that's a pretty good combo. Pretty much the open wounds will easily set up the Split Earth to go very aggressive if you want to go for an aggressive trial lane and have the Magnus either on the mid lane or safe lane farm route, and from there just kind of do whatever they need to do to keep in the fray. Templar Assassin and Wisp will be able to counteract the Leshrac decently with a good set of long range ultimate gankers, and you jump in with the tether and the relocate, and you can pretty much put two people wherever you want on the map, and that can be extremely effective for bringing down the opposition. Picking off low HP supports, but supports are still an essential part of the game. They add too much disable to pass up, and with that you generally need at least one or two, and Leshrac is going to be the one of choice. Unfortunately, in a supportive role, he won't get that much farm, and therefore won't be very durable. With the Pulse Nova being so strong, if you can get some really big items like a Bloodstone or BKB, but in the supportive role, it's going to be less than likely. Instead, he's going to get hit pretty hard by the Nyx Assassin, and whoever ganks up with Wisp, which presumably would be a Sven, a Tiny. There's going to be a Tiny band coming out, probably a Sven as well. And there's still a lot of different heroes that work really well with them. If they want to pub it up, go Ursa. Otherwise, they can be looking at maybe like a Faceless Void, or I like the idea of a Weaver with a Wisp, just because you can Shooky on through with the tether active. But I've obviously never seen that in competitive, and so probably not the best option. Chaos Knight on the other band coming out from Outpicked, and definitely one of the stronger heroes. So Sven, Chaos Knight, and Tiny are the natural bans now that Wisp is on the board. And in turn, the Disruptor and the Enigma are going to get banned out based on the fact that they have the Magnus to clump them up together. If the Magnus gets a good polarity off, they don't want that follow-up to last more than just the 2.25 to 3.75 second range. After that's over, they don't want to be stuck inside a kinetic static or a black hole. So they're going to ban out those heroes naturally and kind of go from there. Probably just going to ban out another AoE magic damage dealer and finish off their banning route to move on into picks. I'd be extremely surprised if Sven was not the band coming out of Outpicked, so I guess they're just considering what their next set of drafts are. And it might be I mean, you could think of it as a little bit of a bait. You're like, okay, well, they picked the Wisp, and naturally we have to spend all three bans on Wisp-oriented heroes that benefit a lot from having Wisp right alongside them as a ganking buddy. But the fact of the matter is, if you're forced to use your three bans in one thing, the Dire team could go a completely different route, and Dubas could draft up pretty much anything he wants now, because those three in that specific role have been banned out, but there's still plenty of heroes in the game. So I don't think Wisp is worth it that much to pick up just so that you can fake out a bunch of bans, but it can help in the draft in general. So moving forward, Lifestealer is going to be looking to farm up towards the late game. He can easily go up against the Templar Assassin. She does a lot of physical damage burst, as well as she doesn't stack that much HP. BKB and Magic Wand pretty much being her only strength items, but nevertheless, if you can get in close against her, you can do quite a bit of damage to her, chomping on through. Desolator or Armlet, whatever you pick up from the Lifestealer will add that much more potential. So that'll be cool. And trying to think of what they need to support him, or get they can get a solo mid, or they can go for an aggressive tri-lane. I think they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane, life steal or Leshrac, and a to be named support that could go very, very aggressive. Rubik is still surprisingly on the board. No real big bans in that regard, so I think Rubik might be a nice pickup, but you have to remember that although the refraction is nice to steal from Templar Assassin, Wisp abilities really aren't. There's nothing really to take up in that regard, but Outpicked, despite going for the first pick, Rubik, that first time, actually, I think that was in the other hands. I think that Team Jesus, we got the Rubik, and the opposition kind of got decimated by it. But instead, they're going to go for the Venomancer, and he's going to add a lot of potential damage over time. Two reasons that's really good against this lineup specifically is that Templar Assassin's refraction will tick down very, very rapidly from low damage source things, so that they can actually do some real damage to her immediately after the fact. The other thing would be Nyx Assassin has the Spike Carapace. It does the reflection of damage on the first instance of damage there. That's kind of a gift and a curse. It will mean that Venomancer will get stunned out by Nyx all the time. Anytime he pops Spiked with a single dot on him, immediately that will be stunning out the Venomancer. But the curse aspect of it is that Venomancer you won't be able to reflect big damage. You're not reflecting a fully charged rank 4 Illuminate, you're reflecting a single dot tick, and it's not that big a deal. But they're going to go with a Juggernaut to round out their lineup a little bit. I'm surprised about that. I mean, the 20% movement speed will go through the tether if it's used at the appropriate time, or like you can actually benefit from it still, despite while you're spinning. But other than that, the Blade Fury, I don't know, it just seems like an odd little combo. You have to get a good position on the opposition in order to benefit from that combination. And so Wisp and Juggernaut will be the heroes of choice. I guess every time you have Omni Slash up, you can just teleport from the fountain on top of something, do super Omni Slash combo and just kind of burn them down from there. But other than that, I guess the one thing I really don't like it is that Juggernaut's really a pushing oriented carry. He can gank up in the jungle rather effectively, but generally speaking he gets a couple of early kills in the lane and then immediately goes for your tower with that healing ward and maybe like a Chen Enchantress, Leshrac, Nature's Prophet even, to reinforce that push. But he doesn't have any pusher heroes alongside him. They're going to have to go for like a Strength Initiator, like a Sand King or an Earthshaker. Tidehunter still on the board, and I'm amazed that he hasn't been picked up. Actually, Tidehunter would be a great pickup for either team right now. But they do have the Magnus, I guess, on Outpick. So Tidehunter would be amazing for Dire, and I think they should snatch that up as soon as possible. But again, that leaves them with a situation where they have 3 melee heroes and a Templar Assassin who's very short range, and the fact that they don't really have any push-oriented heroes. Meanwhile, Outpicked has a Leshrac, a Venomancer, and a Lone Druid, all 3 being very, very good for push. So there it goes. They're going to go for a niche push lineup, going for Nature's Prophet, going for a very aggressive push with the Call of the Wild, or sorry, Nature's Call, and combining that with Juggernaut's healing powers really, really quickly. Now we'll have to see if that pays off for them. If they're going to get quick towers, then they are going to transition well into the mid-game, but otherwise it might be difficult. So, starting off, Blade Furying it up a little bit. A resolution on the Juggernaut, we have Versuto. Picking up the Wisp, then there is, of course, Templar Assassin underneath the pilot controls of King Art. Then we have Cambry on the Nyx Assassin. Finally, Dubas the Slayer himself on the Nature's Prophet, so that'd be cool. Then going up top, the nameless Russian on the Lifestealer. Then we have Aberg, this time on the Magnus. Leshrac on Curvard, being picked up by Curvard, and then Habano Gavno this time around on the Venomancer. Last but not least, we do have Follow Me now on the Lone Druid. So very diverse role set. He pretty much has played every single role in the game in the past few games I've cast it, so that'll be cool. Just realized I don't have my chat open. Hopefully everybody's not flaming me for something stupid. Pew. Okay, so acrylic, awesome. I don't speak Russian in any way, shape, or form, so that is one drawback of participating in a Russian league. But that's why I'm the English caster. Anywho, we do have a quick reconnect coming out of Venomancer. He just has to recon, and then he'll be back in the fray. Going for a similar build to the way that Rubik built earlier, he only has 1 branch as far as static items. His net worth is sitting at 10. Which is not accurate. He's mostly because of the disconnect. If he was connected in, it would show 63. But one way or another, the point is he has +1 to all stats to his name. The rest of it is regeneration and wards. So going for the clarity, going for the tangos, going for the salve, and just putting out a ward in a good position here. Trying to block off this pull is mostly what he's going to endeavor with that ward specifically. then also try to cover up the rune with the other. So that is his general endeavor, but that's not necessarily going to be the case if there is some good sentry wards coming out. But right now, some observers have been picked up by Nyx, and right now, Nyx and Wisp are the two heroes that are supporting. So look to them. It looks like Wisp wants to... Yeah, no, they're not going to have that option. They're going to go for smoke early. They're going to have a single observer ward and the courier, but no sentries coming on out, so it's going to be difficult to de-ward if the pole gets blocked off. Aberg heading towards top. He's going to be going for the middle lane with his current item build, which will leave Lone Druid solo on the bottom. So an aggressive tri-lane, acting with Venomancer, Lifestealer, and Leshrac. Two really powerful slows, accompanied with one big stun. The problem that I have with that is that Resolution has Blade Fury, and that will make sure that the slows don't matter one little bit. And even when you see the Leshrac stun coming, because you can see it coming based on the cast animation, you can avoid that too. So literally, Resolution could care absolutely less about any one of these guys' disables. You can just go extremely aggressive, whatever timing he wants, and just kind of spin on through it. Now, I don't believe you'll dispel it based on the Blade Fury, but both slows taper off really rapidly. So unless they do some really good long-range harassment with the Leshrac and the Venomancer and the current range advantage, I think he's going to have a rough time with things. What's Venomancer doing? Eating through the trees. He needed to eat that tree anyways if we wanted to do some Radiant pulling into this position here. But also, the fact of the matter is he got himself into a good position where Magnus comes in with that shockwave. If he had the skewer, he could probably pull one of the teammates into it. But really just focusing on picking off the Nyx Assassin, the Gale goes on through, so Resolution needs to pop his Blade Fury. Not spinning just yet, wants to get the kill on Magnus, but the first blood has gone to the Lifestealer. Already taking a favorable exchange here. Now they're both on the run. 3 versus 2. Obviously, the Magnus having dropped down. So 3 versus 2, but it's still going to be first blood for the Lifestealer, which is a lot of gold already boots if he wants them to bring down the opposition really quickly. And Magnus just TPs back onto mid. It will delay his bottle considerably, and he is up against the Templar Assassin, who generally wins this lane. But we'll have to see if Aberg can lock him down a little bit better.
The hidden ones grin.
Denied.
Alright, so we do have Pursuit and Resolution up on top lane here, and finally coming back into it. There is going to be Cambry on the Nyx Assassin. He's ready to rock and roll in the fray, but this pull has been locked down. There's a stun coming out as well as a Blade Fury, and the tether goes on through. Here comes the Blade Fury, pops it off, dodges the stun. Like I was saying, a Curve Bar will take a fall. Easy kill up against Juggernaut. Not sure why Nyx right now is so aggressive. He pops that off, and it was an invisible Venomancer popping off the Gale, but at best they'll get a kill. Okay. Deny actually comes off from Juggernaut, so nice play by Resolution, but honestly, I feel that if Resolution and Cambry had immediately just gone to auto-attack down the Lifestealer, he would have had to flee from the fight and not even been able to bring down the Wisp. But, you know, getting a Deny out, it only gives a little bit of experience to the enemies, and Wisp will be back up in here in just a moment's time. Meanwhile, back on bottom lane, the Lone Druid is fighting the jungle himself, Nature's Prophet. So, interesting. Nature lovers going head-to-head, one with the bear, one with the trees. But in the end, it's going to be pretty much an even exchange until level 5, when the Lone Druid gets the Integral ability on the bear. And when that comes into play, there's going to be a lot more damage coming into Dubas the Slayer if there's ever a proc that he cannot deal with. It does interrupt the Entangle as well, but you can't rely on it to do that more than once. So if he has enough high enough threshold, Nature's Prophet shouldn't die up against the Lone Druid, but if he plays aggressively, he could actually get locked down, especially with his Orb of Venom now on the bear. But the fact of the matter is, Nature's Prophet does have rank 1 teleport available. At any point in time, he can turn this 3v3 into a 4v3 and put some pressure down on any of the Radiant supports. So Outpicked has to watch themselves and always keep an eye out for those trees forming. In the meantime, though, Venomancer really just wants to get a Gale off on Versuta, which he's going to be looking for right now. Should we go in for it? But no, just a little bit too afraid. He knows that there's the Impale, he knows there's the Blade Fury, and doesn't want to set his team up for a unfavorable initiation, especially with, again, the Nature's Prophet able to jump in at any point in time. And nice lane ward coming down to Dire. I do like this. Nyx dropping on down. This one specifically sees a little bit up the river, but most importantly sees all the way down to about this point here on the lane. So they know exactly what's going on, know when to flank around, know when to fall back. They have good control of that. And as long as Templar Assassin is communicating with the team, actually here comes the initiation. Double Impale, double Tether going on through, and with that, TP coming in for Nature's Prophet, they should be able to secure 2 kills here. Looking for one more. Curvard did pop off his Edict, which might be his doom. Dubas wants to. Yeah, hey, he's going to use the trees, easily bring him down, and now Lifestealer is the last man standing for his team as they get 2 kills, favoring now PoLy4ika has 4-2 as far as their advantage there. Now, Magnus is taking runes. That is pretty effective for them getting the double damage, but all in all, as far as last hits go, you're definitely looking at Templar Assassin dominating that lane, 15-5 compared to the 8-2. There was a TP back up top, Lifestealer a little bit in over his head, but not too much going to come of it, and wasted a lot of mana there. Cambria is she. Okay, thank you so much, because I honestly don't know enough about these guys. Okay, so Cambry is a she. Now, I knew that these guys, I mean, I know Versuta and I know Dubas, the Slayer, so with that, I'm assuming these other people are known, but Cambry is a female player, so that's pretty cool. And if you guys have any more information about these guys, I'd love to convey it to the stream in general, or you can just say it in chat and have a nice conversation about that. But Spirit Bear and the Lone Druid farmed up nicely on the bottom now that the Nature Prophet has headed up top. Although he was able to get that second kill on the Leshrac as a result of his presence, you know, the fact of the matter is it's a rank 1, rank 2 TP and has a very long cooldown as a result. So Lone Druid farming away, now topping out CS at 23 CS, and from there it's going to be difficult to overcome it if he can pick up a big item like Midas or Radiance, but for the time being it's just going to be a little bit of items going out to Magnus, the bird, popping that double damage, getting a little bit of bottle restoration, and forcing TA towards the bottom lane. But she got the Illusion Rune, and she wants to go toe-to-toe with this Druid now. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure what the Ring of Regen is for, if he wants to turn that into a, like... I've seen Hedros and recommended, but I always thought it was the stupidest thing, but there's probably something I don't know about that. Anywho, other than regenerating HP for yourself and your bear. Anywho, it's going to be Lifestealer picking up quite a bit of farm up top still. It's actually, he's almost neck and neck with the Juggernaut as far as last hits go. But when we go look over at KDA, you're looking at 2-0-2 on the Juggernaut, taking up 4 kills and not dying whatsoever. And by that I mean contributing to 4 kills, not necessarily taking them for himself. Anywho, Versuta doing pretty good for the time being and just being aggressive as possible, but he needs to get some items and some experience if he wants to be relevant towards the mid game. If you just completely destroy a Wisp in the laning phase and force him off the lane multiple times over and he plays really supportively, he is barely noticeable in the rest of the game. He's almost like not a hero. But when you get some good items on a mechanism, some good experience, he is amazing. Meanwhile, as you can see on screen, this tower getting completely demolished using Illusion Rune, some Trent, and now the TP goes on through. Impale, the Gale goes across, but Versuta able to do quite a bit of damage, taking a lot from the Edict too. Lifestealer will pick up that kill, but now Nyx should be able to bring down the Leshrac. However, it was a little bit of a nice diversion, allowing them to pick up the Venomancer, but the Juggernaut will die in turn. So I actually really like the movement of Leshrac right there. Dying up here to the north forced 2 heroes to follow him for an extended period of time, and as a result, they were able to get the Venomancer, keep the Venomancer alive long enough for Juggernaut to die underneath tower. So it's a little bit better than it could have been, but most likely Dubas is going to turn this into a push with these Trents here. Unless there's a big TP coming out, Venomancer are going to drop down some Plague Wards, but only rank 1, they're not going to be able to do too much counter push damage. Meanwhile, on bottom, there's just illusions. Not a big deal, but he has picked up his level 7, which is really nice. He can burn down towers really quickly himself, and has to keep an eye on that. Where's his gold at right now? 600 gold. He's sitting at a GPM of 261. Kind of surprising, since he's gotten a free lane almost the entire game, but here, with that open wounds, popping his ultimate, there we go. Nice wait. Oh, I'm so glad Aberg waited for that, but he's taking a lot of damage from Blade Fury nevertheless. Nice Impale coming on out. The damage should be enough to bring down Versuta, and now they want to look for Cambry, but she is just too far out of the picture, and is going to be able to salve up with that Carapace. Don't know if she should have salved, but she wants to stay on the lane. The only issue there is that she has no mana available, and can't really contribute much more than auto attacks at this point. But I really like that Aberg waited on that reverse polarity. He was about to catch 1, and then suddenly he got 3, and that's a really big deal. But like I was saying, this team, the Dire has built, PoLy4ika has gotten some really good push out of the potential for Juggernaut's healing board, but more importantly, the Nature's Call. So meanwhile, while everything's going on, the tier 1 tower in mid is dropping really quickly, and Follow Me has taken down the tier 1 bottom. So towers are dropping left and right. There's a lot of potential for both teams to drop towers really quickly, and it's kind of showing a little bit more signs of an older meta. Something around the push meta where you get like Chen Enchantress, Nature's Prophet, Leshrac, and just go nuts. Venomancer, sure. But anyways, with that, Lone Druid has taken a tower of his own and has brought his GPM up quite a bit, up to 318, but needs to do that a little bit. as far as switching to stats, I do think that last hits and denies are very important, but one thing is they obviously are non-comprehensive in the sense that there are plenty of different sources of income as far as gold goes. You're looking at tower kills, you're looking at hero kills, and things along those lines. Nice Omni Slash though. They need just a little bit more movement speed. One more tether could do it, but no. Resolution falls back. He just knows he's in over his head. Speaking of, Leshrac jumps in forward only to get impaled in the face. Aberg tries to help out a little bit, but without that shockwave locking down, the Juggernaut's just going to be able to run away. Yeah, creep stats, they do a decent amount of... wow, nice and fast. I actually didn't see him jump in that creep, but nevertheless, there goes the Lifestealer, able to jump on out, and Venomancer finishes off the Wisp, no problem at all. Every time I'm trying to say something. Okay, creep stats, they give a nice display, but like you can see, Lone Druid, he has 44 creeps, he's second best, but now he's down here as far as gold per minute because he's not been in fights. He got a kill on a tower, great, but he's also 0-0-0. So there's a lot of factors that apply into gold gain, so a lot more helpful things. I like to look at GPM and net worth a little bit more frequently than creep kills, though I try to rotate it around as best as possible. As far as where I am from, I'm American, so USA, kind of centrally located. There's a state called Kentucky, and that's where I'm currently at. Jumped around. I used to be in Michigan, now I'm in Kentucky. And yeah, just USA is probably the easiest base answer. Nice, beautiful, beautiful skewer into polarity. Start things off, gets a kill on Dubas. Looking for King Art, but he does have his refraction up in just 2 seconds, so doubt that's going to happen. But in the meantime, Lone Druid taking down the tier 2 on bottom. Nice action there, helping out his team a lot. Now, I was complaining a little bit about his personal GPM since he has not been involved in fights, kills, or assists. But he now has 367 GPM, and the more important thing is that he's gotten towers for his team, which means that his team is a lot better off. They were down almost 2,000 gold. They were down at 2,000 gold at one point, but now overcoming that deficit up to 500. Very nice action there. But can't cat out a team with a Wisp and a Nature Prophet late game. Nature Prophet being one of the best farmers in the game, if that's the role he wants to reserve himself to. But Dubas has thus far been very active on the lane, sitting at only 24 CS. He's been mostly focusing on teleporting around, getting some kills, helping out with urn charges, and doing what he can. But he has been picked off a little bit. He pushed down a lot of towers. That's probably his primary contribution. But both teams have a lot of potential moving towards the late game. I think Lifestealer is a little bit better off, and so is Lone Druid when you compare him to Juggernaut, who, although he gets a lot of damage from his crit, double damage for only 35% chance, that procs very frequently. But the fact of the matter is, late game, past like the 45-minute mark, he kind of just begins to taper off. So they need to keep momentum going, they need to bring down tower kills, and do things along those lines if they're going to keep things rolling. As far as experience goes, Wisp is in a pretty sore spot right now. He is just at barely below level 5, and until he gets level 6, he doesn't really have that global presence that we usually you fear when you're going up against a team that has a Wisp. So, Outpicked doing a really good job of forcing people down, and speaking of keeping that pressure going, Venomancer and Leshrac keeping on the ball. Reverse Polarity wasn't available, didn't need it, as they were able to land a Gale, and from there, do enough damage with the Split Earth and the Edict, so nice action there. Resolution picking up a Yasha, if you would wait like 2 seconds to get it. Speeding him up doesn't help in that regard, but you know, I'm just joking around. He is going to be heading towards mid lane, not going to get that Yasha. Like, okay, there he goes, finally. Now he's going to go in for a big Omni Slash, but the creeps will see them, so he's just going to be able to resort to farming and not too much more. In the meantime, Templar Assassin, finding a Haste Rune, already has that Blink Dagger up. Blink Dagger pretty much makes Templar Assassin a whole new hero, just completely changes her playstyle as far as you know, farming and playing aggressively. Speaking of aggression, Nature Prophet jumping in, did not get the Sprout, doesn't have any points in Sprout, but the trap might just be enough, as again, it's a Haste Rune. Burning down his Lone Druid. He does have a lot of armor. He has Rabbit up to get movement speed, but it's going to be Leshrac that is actually going to save the day. Coming in, gets a nice stun off. The Orb of Venom will not help bringing down Templar Assassin as the haste is still active, but the chance for Entangle is always going to be important there. But nice action, good TP from Leshrac, and kept him alive under very, very difficult odds. On the other hand, Lifestealer has been left alone, and despite his armlet, might have a hard time surviving from this. He could, of course, just pop an Infest if he needed to, though. Rage just being so powerful in this game with so many stuns to worry about there. The Tether, it's just the Tether and the Impale, really. I mean, there's a mini stun on Omni Slash, but that's hardly relevant. Now we do have a transition into a push. This tier 1 tower standing for far too long. They put up the healing ward, put up the Nature's Call, and they're going to go aggressive on this tier 1 tower, and there's really very little the Venomancer can do. Even at rank 3, oh wow, and he gets Omni Slashed out. Wow, nice play by Resolution, jumping in, finding him out right before the creep wave. That is such a important skill. I mean, it's just so vital to know the creep timings. Pretty much what you do is you look at when the creep wave is coming, and if you can find just a sliver of time where you can find somebody without creeps and use an ability like that targets a random object, such as the rocket barrage of Gyrocopter, the Omni Slash of Juggernaut, the Eclipse of Luna, or the Diabolic Edict or Battery Assault of Leshrac and Clockwork respectively. You can jump in on them and do so much damage right there. Bring in a huge... Oh, speaking of big play... Ah, he only got the Nyx Assassin. It's very unfortunate. I mean, they do get a kill out of it, but that's a big ultimate to jump into it with. Seeing as he was not yet level 11, and still isn't, he is sitting at a 2-minute duration cooldown, so it's nice to pick that off and to save your tower, but nevertheless he could have gotten a little bit more if he had a little bit more range of initiation, but unfortunately that Blink Dagger is just a little bit too shortcoming, as he was locked down pretty hard against Templar Assassin in the mid lane. 50 CS on himself and almost 80 on the TA there. So she got her Blink Dagger, he did not, and with that he wasn't able to make a big play there. Alright, so going on through, one thing to mention, as I completely missed a kill on Magnus getting completely picked off, there was no Omni Slash, so they must have just jumped in on him and found a good opportunity with that Meld Strike. His base armor is pretty good, looking at 7 right now, but the fact of the matter is you got 3 heroes doing a large amount of damage really rapidly, and there's just not too much you can do. Anyways, what was I saying? Got distracted there. Armlet, as an item on Lifestealer, it gives him a lot more potential. He can pretty much toggle that on and off, giving him some temporary HP boost. It increases his damage, increases attack speed, which is essential for Feast to be utilized as effectively as possible, because every single attack steals currently 5% up to 7 of the enemy's current HP, so that can be really good. There's not really any high HP heroes, so he might be wanting to go for like armor penetration instead with the Desolator, but he has to pull something out very shortly, because although he is probably the hardest carry this game specifically, I would definitely say that Juggernaut with an Aegis the Immortal pushing in with Mantis Cell just about on the way. You have to watch out for those kinds of things very closely, or you're going to get locked down hard, as they're going to be looking to push, and that will happen right after we get a free and easy kill on the Venomancer. He does get impaled up, and Nyx will take that kill. Pocket the money, look for an urn. That's kind of a mistake here. There is a urn coming in from the courier, but there is already an urn on the Nature Prophet, so a little bit of miscommunication between Cambry and... I'm forgetting his name for some reason, even though it's Dubas the Slayer. So, with that, she wasn't really communicating with him as effectively as she could be, and as a result, 2 urns on the field, but that's not that big a deal. Somebody will get the charges no matter what. Now Resolution spinning it up, wanting to go aggressive on this tower, knows that he won't need his spin that rapidly. Should put up the healing board pretty soon though, as the team fight is about to break out. As here comes Lifestealer, jumping in, pops his rage off, won't help very much against Omni Slash, but here Magnus attempts his ulti. It apparently got somebody, but not really so as much as he wanted to. Beautiful skewer, but I mean the damage is done, the ultimate's on cooldown, and this team fight belongs to the Dire now. PoLy4ika just cleaning up, and there's going to be forcing a buyback out of Wisp, just so he can jump in back into it, but follow me taking so much damage, and with some nice disables, nice slows, and nice damage output, they're going to be able to bring him down. Now the question is, Wisp, his tether is on cooldown, so he can't bring anybody back with him. I'm sure he wanted to bring back Resolution, but not an option. Of course the Aegis the Immortal allows him to continue pushing though. At least Magnus got out, but the fact of the matter is he whiffed an ultimate, even with a Blink Dagger, and that's not where you want to be at. So, once again, PoLy4ika on the top end of things. Looking at this, there was a momentary, just a wink of time where Outpicked was in favor as far as gold goes, and really favorable as far as experience goes, but that time is over. It has since been completely taken control over by the Dire, and honestly they're going to transition pretty well as long as they keep this momentum rolling. Aegis still available on Juggernaut, but only for a few more minutes. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 minutes left on it, so has only expended 1/3 of the time. And for those of you guys that don't know me very well, I mean I do a lot of casting as far as amateur Dota, mostly on the North American scene, but been picking up with DotaBro, and I'm their official caster, and that's pretty cool. Even though it's more Russian oriented, it's international, and I'm loving the idea that we can have more and more people join up in it and get involved, so that's really cool. Along with that, I do usually have a co-caster. His name is Rainmaker, but he doesn't really have any channels or anything, so he just usually casts with me, but Today specifically, he was preoccupied with a couple other things, so it's mostly me solo, and that's fine too, because I actually started out solo casting. That's kind of how you have to start practicing, and even though I've only been practicing since like July or August, I feel like I've gotten a lot better at it and can hold my own for sure. So, back to the game a little bit. I mean, it's mostly just kind of died down, but what you're looking at here is Templar Assassin picking up a crit. If she can crit with a Meld Strike there, trying to think if you even can do that. As far as the mechanics, they did change how the Shadow Blade worked, but I'm not sure if that's the same thing. Anyways, Magnus getting a beautiful blink out. I love that blink, like immediately reacted. The circles go down on the minimap, you see them coming, maybe even see the little white array on the map, I'm not 100%, but either way, blinked to the exact position he needed to make sure he wouldn't have any issues. I mean, could have blinked back to base, but that was just really, really good positioning on his part. Hopefully he can actually use that positioning skill in his next team fight. But the Radiance has been finished up on the bear, and this is a big deal. I've been keep on checking his GPM to see how his progress is on this, but he did rush the Radiance. He got it by 19 minutes, and now is the time that it can be extremely effective. It will burn through refraction charges like no tomorrow, and it can actually proc off Nyx Assassin's refraction so that the bear doesn't have to worry about anything. By Nyx Assassin's refractions, I mean the Spike Carapace, which is still only rank 1. But the fact of the matter is, they really have to be very wary of it. 45 DPS is definitely nothing to ignore, and now with the potential damage on the bear, it can burn down anybody they want really, really quickly. So, nice little tether on the bear. He won't be able to pursue, but the fact of the matter is, if anybody gets caught out, the Nyx Assassin in particular, underneath the Sentry Ward Shockwave coming out, they just need to burn him down with the bear. If he had walked the bear right up here, Cambry would be dead, and they would be able to push this tower completely cleanly with no issue at all. But I think they still have the same intention, but Aberg blinks down on a tether, gets stunned out by that, and is not able to initiate as he intended. The Fortify is popped. It looks like they want to contest it, or at least delay them. If they can take out this tower, yeah, they are good. All they want to do is make sure the Tier 2 tower will fall, and Templar Assassin gets a deny. Beautiful play by King Art, with so many Plague Wards on down, with so many heroes attacking the tower, that didn't seem even possible. But Templar Assassin brings it 2, gets the bonus damage, and is now sitting at a very, very sizable amount of damage when the refraction is up. So, gotta deny the tower, gotta last hit on the tower, and Dubas isn't done. He wants more, and unfortunately Left is gonna TP back and farm up on the creeps a little bit. But, you know, taking the Tier 2 tower and denying your Tier 1, very, very favorable. And now the team fight is in the fray. There is a beautiful ultimate coming from Mag, but everybody has taken so much damage in turn. Man, that just got completely turned around. Wisp, all of his spirits detonated simultaneously, and with that came the death of pretty much everybody in that vicinity there. So everybody grouped up really closely, and Wisp spirits grouped up in a tiny ball, do a nice little bit of slash AoE damage, and of course the Nyx got a really nice stun in conjunction to everything else. The spin was still going, and yeah, they just did what they needed to, and Aegis Team Mortal is still available. Manta Style was popped up, but just helping out to push a little bit, and now they can be looking for Tier 3. The Roche won't be available for some time, but that's not a big deal. Actually, speaking of Roche, looking at the Aegis timer, it's about to expire. About 2 seconds, there you go. So Resolution no longer has the Aegis Immortal, but they can still put pressure on this tower with Magnus not only in the grave, but even now that he's up, he still has his ultimate on cooldown, and they can put aggression out here. Fortify is finally popped by Outpicked, as they want to hold the line here. They need to keep this tower, but Resolution still holding strong. I don't know. I hope he realizes he doesn't have its Aegis, as he just got put in a terrible spot. Wisp will be TPing in, trying to pull him out, pinging him, and he TP'd? I guess he TP'd while Blade Fearing and didn't show the animation. Whatever. Wisp gets caught out, trying to pull his ally out. Pretty much he relocated into the fray, and then he tried to tether Nature's Prophet away, but his distraction was at the very least enough that Dubas could teleport away himself. So very, very mobile and global presence coming out of the team, but at the best, they took down the Tier 3, and they only lost the Wisps, so that's a pretty big deal. Really, really impressed that Juggernaut was able to get that TP off, but worked out in the end. I thought he got like Test of Faith at first, but no. Anywho, so he is gone, and with that comes the control of the map to the Radiant a little bit. Outpicked will be able to put some wards up if they take use of this time appropriately, but Aberg popping off his haste rune, he wants to go aggressive on the Tier 2 mid, but we've seen time and time again how they put so much resources into these tower here in the mid, and at the same time, Dubas is constantly pushing on the other lane. So the second he gets a second set of Trents coming out, that Tier 3 tower is done for. Now the team fight breaks on out in the mid lane, trying to go for the Lone Druid, and with that beautiful Meld Strike, that will finish the job there. Bursuda is running for his life away from this lifesteal. The Entangle proc is there, though, and he's going to drop down. Lifestealer is the kill in turn, and nice trap coming out. The Sprout locks in the Druid. Bear in the jungle and not allowed to escape. He does get an entangle proc off, but it's just not going to help him in that situation. Double kill for King Art, and that is a 4-for-1. As well, they of course defended their tower, and the Trents were doing a little bit of damage to the tier 3 on bottom. So looking at that, you have a situation where you're sitting at a 600 HP tower on bottom, you have open racks in mid, and you've done a little bit of a chunk of damage to the top as well. So this is the time to push. This is a really great time to win a fight in the middle of the map, because then you can immediately transition this into a real objective advantage, racks. And if you take the racks down, you cut off the farm of your enemies just a decent little bit, and of course you keep the momentum always pushed in their base. They always have to play on the defensive, and that just completely changes your control. You can ward up on this position here, you can just play as aggressively as you need to, or as defensively for that matter. Beautiful action from Aberg though, holy crap, he has a skewer too. Will he pop it? No. And actually, despite that amazing ultimate, they weren't able to catch up anybody on that because they don't have any damage. Poison Nova was not used, it's only rank 1 anyways, and you know, it's the lifesteal is not able to finish the job. Now, the Curvebard's going to take a fall to Resolution, get a nice crit on out of there. The damage from Radiance is going to do the trick, though. Everybody's going to take a fall there. King, the Templar Assassin, will be dropped down as well. Dubas is going to most likely drop. Yeah, Radiance will finish the job, and Resolution just has to run for his life. Luckily, he has picked up a really good mobility build, where he goes for Phase Boots and the Manta style, increasing his movement speed by a large amount, 26% while it's active, of course, and increasing his base movement speed. So nice action there, and not too much Whisk can do. Is that his second buyback? No, he hasn't bought back. As a matter of fact, buyback is available for everybody but the Magnus, but unfortunately, despite buying back and getting a beautiful ultimate off, like I said, there wasn't enough damage. I think the biggest issue right now is Leshrac is only level 9. Curvard, if he was ranked 2 Pulse Nova at level 11, they could have done a lot more with that, but it was pretty much Lone Druid doing almost all the damage by himself, a little bit from Lifestealer, but he's looking for Basher, and is just going for Disables rather than the DPS that they need. So along those lines, it's going to be hard to come back from this. Looking at the continually plummeting gold and experience, it's difficult to really come back from that. So with that, the net worth sitting at 13.7k for Resolution. He has really topped out as far as that goes, just keeping his gold rolling, whether it's going to be through creep kills, which is not that plentiful, 121, or more importantly, getting all these kills and assists. He's getting a lot out of that. But real quick, not sure what that was supposed to accomplish. Maybe a misclick that he was trying to TP, relocate back to base to heal them up, but instead he just TP'd back to base, and Resolution was just chilling there. Anyways, soon enough he will have enough mana for Omni Slash. He has a decent mana regen now that they has the plus 10 intellect on the Manta style, so he'll get that up in a relatively short time. In the meantime, Nature's Prophet using that medallion, using the Trents, and pretty much can solo Roshan, but he's not going to need to be alone. The Juggernaut going to come in, Templar Assassin as well to help him out, and now look at this negative armor. Negative 8 armor on Roche right now, and pretty much he just gets completely obliterated as you see on your screen. So he's gone. Not even up for like 20 seconds before he's dropped right back down. And Aegis the Immortal is forfeit to Resolution, so that's really nice for him. Sells from that position and goes aggressive. Sorry, hit the vision button accidentally. Alright. So, they're going to be pushing down on the bottom tower here. Like I said, already really low. They've pushed in on the racks in this position, so the creeps are waves is continuously going to be pushing in this regard. He probably, Follow Me is probably going to have to leave his bear here to just keep the Radiance damage over time effect while he goes to defend, because he can always call the bear back at any point in time with the return ability that it gets level... I keep on wanting to say level 3, but it's a rank 2 ability, I guess you could say. Okay, so they do have the aura from the Necronomicon, and Necro really good for pushing up the creeps right here, but now he's going to be focusing down on the opposition. The tower has fallen, and it's an even playing field. Every single person here wants a piece of the opposition, but they need the good initiation. They're afraid of Magnus jumping in and blinking with that potential to reverse polarity the entire team in for a long duration disable, 3 seconds, but it's not the 3.75 as he's only down to level 12, but here he comes. He tried to get it off, but Omni Slash and Tether, both of those stunning him up so that he could not get his ultimate off. Magnus goes to the grave with his ultimate with him, and that's going to be a good game as a result. If he had gotten that ulti off, things might have been different, but again, the Tether acts immediately when he enters that position, and he wasn't able to get that ulti off, so good game, well played as called. and just really poor spot. Magnus really tried on that one, but it just didn't work out for him. So his buyback was down. That was probably, I mean, he didn't have money for it in the first place, but yeah, he couldn't come back into it, couldn't come back from that one there. So once he jumped in, that was the game. And I mean, overall, PoLy4ika played extremely well as a team, as a unit. They made sure that their Juggernaut was always aggressive. 15, 1, and 11. Awesome score to have on your carry, as it turns out. So Mantis will come up, drop down a couple towers, and they're going to finish the game. But nice action there. MVP is hard to say on this one. They all contributed pretty evenly and effectively, but I think the most important thing was that they kept their cool during the team fights. They targeted who they needed to, and didn't just run around like crazy and get all scattered. They focused, they disabled, they coordinated, and they got the kills. So nice action there. And that's a good game. So thank you guys for tuning in. This was DotaBro.com Blaze casting presentation, and relocate in 3, 2, 1. So there's that, and I'm going to take a quick break, not even 10 minutes, just got to get my throat fixed a little bit, been casting for a number of hours, and I'll jump into another game in just a few minutes, so tune in to some music, hopefully commercial doesn't play while it's active, and thanks for tuning in, guys.